Most people just aren't putting in the time necessary to achieve the goals they've set for themselves. Hey, what's up everybody? Steve Schwartz here from LSAT Unplugged, joining you today to share how many hours you should study for the LSAT per day. Before I get into it, please do me a favor, like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It really helps with that YouTube algorithm, and I really do appreciate it. So I'm making this video because one of the most common questions I get from students is, how many hours per day should I study for the LSAT? How should I structure my time? The answer, of course, is it depends on what your other obligations are. Are you working? Are you in school? Are you working full-time or part-time? Do you have a family? Do you have kids? Do you have other obligations? When are you taking the LSAT? All of these questions help factor in to determine what your daily and weekly LSAT study schedule should look like. If you are working full-time or in school full-time, I typically recommend a maximum of 15 to 20 hours per week of LSAT prep spread over a period of 3 to 6 months. Anything more than that just isn't that realistic and may lead you to stress out about not fully fulfilling your obligations for work or for school, for example. If you have kids, I would lower that down even more to maybe 10 hours per week, spread throughout the week, maybe 1 or 2 hours a day on weekdays, more on the weekends. If you're working full-time or in school full-time, same deal, 1 or 2 hours a day on weekdays, then a whole lot more on the weekends. Maybe you do 2 hours a day Monday through Thursday, another 6 hours on Saturday, another 4 hours on Sunday. That's getting you close to that 20-hour-a-week mark. I wouldn't necessarily try to do more than that. And I also wouldn't try to cram for this test. This is a marathon, not a sprint. The best prep happens over a longer period of time to let those insights and lessons learned from review sink in and percolate in your brain. Don't try to cram it in. Don't try to study 30 hours per week. Unless you have absolutely nothing else going on, no other obligations, the LSAT can be your sole and primary focus. Now let's get to the question of how to allocate your time over the course of the day. If you are studying full-time just for the LSAT, nothing else going on, I typically recommend a maximum of 5 to 6 hours per day spread throughout the day. You do 2 to 3 hours in the morning, take a break for lunch, another 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon, and the evening is yours. So one ideal schedule might look like the following. Let's say you wake up at 7 a.m., take some me time for an hour or so, you work out, you exercise a little bit from 8 to 9 a.m., then 9 a.m., you sit down, you crack open the books, and get started with your LSAT prep from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. Maybe you take a break or two in the middle, and then 12 p.m., take a break for lunch, go outside, walk around a little bit, then from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. roughly, you study for another 2 to 3 hours, again with a break or two in the middle. You're done by 4. That's it. The rest of the day is yours. Socialize, see friends, go for a walk, exercise if you didn't do it earlier. That really helps that mind-body connection. Super important. Next day, rinse and repeat. Not super exciting, but it is super effective. This schedule is great over a period, again, of 3 to 6 months, especially for those aiming for 170 plus LSAT scores. By the way, if that is your goal, and if you are studying for the LSAT in the next 3 to 6 months, please reach out. I'd love to speak with you. I'm looking for a couple of students aiming for top scores on the LSAT who've already built a strong foundation in the basics of the test, the different sections, and the different question types. If that sounds like you, click the link below this video to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd love to help you out. Now, if you are working full-time or in school full-time or even part-time, I'd recommend a much more moderate schedule for you. In that case, I would say study for an hour before work, maybe 30 minutes during lunch, an hour after work. That could be it. That lets you do actually 2.5 hours, which is more than I said earlier, 1 to 2 hours. Of course, you may not be able to do both before work and after work. Maybe you can't do during lunch, in which case, of course, it gets reduced. For those who commute to work, I recommend you get to work a little bit early and you study either at work in a conference room or somewhere in the neighborhood near your office, maybe a coffee shop around the corner. Then after work, before you go home, again, stay at the office in a conference room or find a coffee shop nearby. Once you get home, it's far too easy to let distractions get in the way of serious LSAT prep. On the weekends, of course, if you're able to clear your schedule on a Saturday or a Sunday to do nothing but study for the LSAT, in that case, I would say, of course, go for that full day study plan, 2 to 3 hours before lunch, 2 to 3 hours after lunch, ranging from the period of roughly 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. Of course, feel free to adjust based on your sleep schedule and your other obligations. This is just what I would consider ideal if you had absolutely nothing else going on, which I know is not realistic for most people. But again, if you're working or in school, I would still go for that 1 hour before work or classes, 1 hour after work and classes, and maybe a little bit in the middle of the day during lunch if you have a short break. This may mean if you can only put in, let's say, 5-10 hours over the course of an entire week, that may lead you to want to spread out your studying over a longer duration. Instead of trying to do it in 3 months, maybe you say, I'm going to go do it in 5 to 6 months minimum and allow a bit more time. It is possible to get a 170 plus just putting in an hour or two per day, but that will spread your studying over a longer period. And I'll be quite honest, I find the students who do the best on the LSAT, they put in the time, whether it's compressed over, say, 3 months with 25, 30 hours a week, or spread over 5 to 6 months with 10, 15 hours a week. Either is totally achievable, but you've got to put in the time. Achieving a top score is simply a function of how much you study and how effectively you study. I've already talked a lot in this video about how much you study, how many hours you're putting in. As for the effectiveness piece, it comes down to deepening your review process. I've developed a framework for this called the Socratic Review Method. I've talked about it here on YouTube and of course, much more in my courses. Check out the links below this video to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd love to help you out. If you found the video helpful, please do me a favor, like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It really does help, and I really do appreciate it. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.